Here at Native Governance Center, we talk a lot about governance. For starters, it's in our name. And we center our work on helping Native nations strengthen their governance systems. Why specifically are we so focused on governance, and why is strong governance important? Let's begin with a few definitions. We see Indigenous governance as the structures and processes Native nations use to promote the physical, cultural, and spiritual well-being of all relatives. When we say relatives, we include not only our living community members, but also our ancestors, future generations, plants, and creatures. To further illustrate the meaning of Indigenous governance, let's explore a few examples. Imagine a Native nation working to protect and assert its treaty rights to hunt, fish, and gather on ceded lands. In addition to defending these rights in federal court, the nation regularly creates educational materials for tribal citizens explaining how they can exercise their rights. Here, governance looks like both taking legal action and managing real-world implementation. Now, envision leaders from a Native nation coming together to create an emergency response plan during a global pandemic. Their plan includes processes for testing, contact tracing, stay-at-home orders, road closures, and supply procurement, among others. Rather than a set of static policies, governance is ever-changing and can be used to respond to current and future needs. It's not just elected leaders and governments who participate in governance. Our actions and relationships on an individual, family, and community level also inform how our nation functions. All of us have the responsibility to contribute to governance, whether this looks like educating community members about civics, learning from our elders, stewarding the land and protecting waters for future generations, or participating in other activities that advance collective well-being. Strong governance depends on community participation. Native nations should create ways to involve their citizens in their processes and systems. Community listening sessions, public comment periods, youth and elder councils, and social media campaigns are just a few examples of ways to engage the community around governance. Now that we know what governance is, why does it matter? Well, Native nations with strong governance systems are more likely to thrive into the future than those without. Let's unpack that a bit. Native nations are sovereign, independent nations. They're able to design and implement governance systems that align with their culture and values. Due to ongoing impacts of colonization, some Native nations are still operating with governance frameworks they did not choose for themselves. Many of these nations are in the process of rebuilding their governance systems to better align with their needs and vision for the future. The link between strong governance and a nation's overall success is well studied. Researchers at the Harvard Project on American Indian Economic Development analyzed a huge volume of data and case studies, eventually pinpointing 5 specific factors that lead to Native nations thriving on their own terms. Strong governing systems is one of these factors. Strong Indigenous governance looks like strategic thinking that ensures the health and well-being of future generations. For instance, a nation may decide to enact water quality standards to help guarantee the long-term survival of Mille. Strong Indigenous governance can also look like visionary leaders rallying the public around land return and collaborating with state and local governments to make it happen. These are just a few examples of the many ways Native nations are using governance to create the future they want to see. All of us have a role to play in strengthening Indigenous governance. Whether it's serving as an elected leader, providing feedback on a proposed policy as a community member, or taking action as an ally to help support tribal sovereignty, governance is a collective effort that has the power to improve quality of life. To learn more, visit nativegov.org.